Welcome back, guys, to another episode of Rant Street. This episode is about electric cars in the UK. Now, I do have some quite strong opinions on electric cars, I'll be honest. So I hope you guys enjoy this rant. So let's get straight into it. The government recently has changed the date of when all brand new petrol and diesel cars will be sold in the UK. So that date is now in 2032. It was 2035, and before that there was no date. So it's now down to 2032. So it's only 12 years away, and supposedly we're going to stop the sale of all brand new petrol and diesel cars in the UK. Now, there's a couple of issues with that. The first one is, well, I don't agree with it, but you know, that. So my first issue I take with electric cars is they're not good enough. They might have lots of gadgets and stuff like that in them, like every car has now, but the range isn't there and the charging capacity isn't there. So the range, if you get yourself something like a Nissan Leaf, something small, something like that, they have a range of about 150 miles. They might say it's a little bit more, but realistically it's actually less. I know this from real world testing because I've driven quite a few electric cars in my previous roles. I know what they're like for charging, and I know what they like for range, and I know that the manufacturers lie, because when they do their testing, they do the testing in environments that are not realistic, so they maximise the range. It's an awkward thing to describe. It's very cold today. So the Nissan Leaf has a claimed range of like 150 miles. You go to like the Teslas, I think they're around the 300 mark, 270, 300. But obviously, the Tesla has more batteries in than the Nissan Leaf, for example. And yes, there are other cars out there like Renault Zoe and there's plug-in hybrids and all that. We'll get onto them. The biggest issue in the UK that I see at the moment is the charging capacity of the cars. So right now, the power stations in the UK are only making a couple of percent more than what the demand is, and at the moment we have a very big majority petrol and diesel cars over electric. The electric cars are the minority at the moment in the UK, so they can plug in and they can charge as and when they need to, and there's no major drain on the national grid. Now, as things start changing and car manufacturers stop selling petrol and diesel cars in the UK, more and more people are going to need to charge their cars. Now, the issue with that is, like I said, we've only got a couple of percent extra reserve at the moment, so we're going to be running at peak capacity unless we start building more power stations, or you go for the renewable energy with the wind or solar panels or something like that. Another big issue is a lot of people, there's a good chunk of people who will work like a Monday to Friday job, work 9 till 5. So you're going to get those people all getting home at the same time, all plugging in at the same time. They're going to send our country back to the freaking dark ages of no electricity because they're all going to plug in. The power stations are not going to have a power, and it's going to shut down the freaking electric grid. Well, that's how I see it at the moment anyway, which is not great. So now we've talked about shutting down the electric grid, let's talk about how long it takes to charge a car. So if you used to plug your car, I don't have a plug with me, with the normal 3-pin plug that you would plug into a house, the 13 amp plug, it would take, depending on the car, 12, 14, 16 hours. And like I said, depending on the car, some take much more than that to get a full charge. Now, if you was to go and get like a 7 kilowatt fast charger and plug your car in, you'll be able to charge your car in probably 6 to 8 hours depending on the car. And then but again, no one's going to have a 7 kilowatt fast charger realistically at the house because you won't have the power supply to your house. So you'd have to go to like a shopping centre or something like that. But that means you're going to have your car parked up there for many hours if you was to get a full charge. So then that brings you on to the rapid chargers. The rapid chargers are great because they can give yourself about 80% battery in about 40 minutes to an hour, again depending on the car, depending on the capacity. But if you use rapid chargers all the time, you'll kill the battery because the batteries don't like being charged that fast. Rapid chargers work, they're really quick up to 80%, then they trickle charge. I know that's how they work, but still, batteries do not like being rapid charged. Manufacturers will tell you that. And speaking of manufacturers, some of them will allow you to go to the manufacturer and they'll stick you on a supercharger that will charge your car to like 100% in about 25-30 minutes. But again, they will kill the battery. So the more times you do that, effectively the less range you're going to get because you're killing the battery off. So then it kind of defeats the object of it. The electric charging is not, the infrastructure is not there in the UK. Now, I know there's 12 years before this deadline comes in, and it could be. But why are we wasting our time trying to put an infrastructure in for something that we don't need? In those 12 years, we should be investing time and money into hydrogen technology, in my eyes. Hydrogen, your normal petrol stations can still exist. They'll just have a new tank with hydrogen in it. And you go in, you pull up, you put your nozzle in, or screw it on, or however you do a hydrogen one, because it's gas. Fills your car up in a matter of minutes, very much like filling it up with petrol and diesel. And then you drive off. You'll have a range the size that will equal petrol and diesel cars quite easily, because with the same sort of tank, and I'm pretty confident they could maybe even maximise it or make it even more efficient, so you could probably get a bit more range. But the best bit is the emissions. It gives out nothing but water. Water comes out of its theoretical exhaust pipe or whatever it is that's on a hydrogen system. It's water. But there's not many car companies out there that's actually looking at this technology. There's a few, and there's a few that's developed it, and they do work. It's just, again, there's no infrastructure there. But in my eyes, that infrastructure is much easier, much quicker to put in. And it's much better for the environment, because all these electric cars and plug-in hybrids and all that, they've all got batteries and they've all got nickel in, and they've all had to be mined in horrible places in the world and shipped to the other parts of the world to be made. All that has a massive impact on the environment. And I'm sure there's an impact to hydrogen cars, but it's got to be less. It's got to be less. It has to, in the long run, it has to be less. It just does. I don't know how you make the hydrogen change into what it needs to do. You need to, I don't know, but I know it's a nice clean process, and it comes out as water. The wasted material is water at the end. Clean water. Brings me on to plug-in hybrids. They are a waste of time. Why the hell would you want to plug your car in to get between, depending on the car, 8 and maybe 30 miles on a battery? I'd rather just run on my petrol engine, save plugging in. What is the point? It's just waste. It's just an absolute waste in my eyes. I can't get round to why you would want a plug-in hybrid. A normal hybrid, fine, because it self-charges. They're not great. They're not amazing cars. Like your Prius was like a pioneer for it. But they're not great. You've got like, there's freaking loads of hybrids now. There's even hybrid diesels and things like that. Like Mercedes have hybrid diesels. There's hybrid petrols across most ranges now. Vauxhall's got them. Ford's just, Vauxhall and Ford's just got them. But when you look at things like Toyota and Honda, I think Honda's got them, but Toyota especially, they've had hybrids for a long time. You've got like the Mitsubishi Outlander, well, that's a plug-in hybrid. Mercedes are plug-in hybrids. It's a waste of money. But the government are going to do this deadline, and they're going to make people buy electric cars, and they're expensive. But yes, there's a government grant, and you can get some money back from the government. Well, you don't get the money back, you get the money as a discount, but either way. Yeah, so there's money involved, but then you've got an electric car that you can't charge up very well, or it takes a long time. For example, when I was at my previous job, we had a Jaguar I-Pace on loan. We plugged it in to the charger we had. So it was like a normal home charger, so not the 3-pin plug, but the normal home charger that you can use the actual plugs that come with the car, plug into the car, plug into the wall. Plugged it in, killed the power. It killed the power to the building. The car sucked that much power, it killed it. We plugged in a hybrid. Plugged in a hybrid. Plugged in a plug-in hybrid BMW, fine. Plugged in a Porsche Panamera hybrid, and that was fine. But when we plugged the I-Pace in, it sucked that much power that it shut the power down to the building, which was bizarre. We plugged it into the normal 13 pin plug, left it overnight, so approximately 12 hours. When we come back, it had about 40 miles on its range from next to nothing. It gained 40 miles overnight on a 3-pin plug. That is not acceptable. That is not acceptable in any way, shape or form. No one can live with that. The only way you can live with that is if you go to the shop that's, you know, less than 20 miles away, so you can hope that you can drive back and you don't have your electric windows on or anything like that. Oh, and that brings me on to an electric van that I drove. So we had the is it the NV300, NV something or other, the Nissan van that's electric, NV whatever it is. That had a range when I picked it up of about 120 miles on. I put the heaters on because it was freezing and it dropped to 90. All I've done is turn the heater on. 90. Who's going to want a van that you can't have the heating on because you lose 25% of your range? And when you lose 25% of your range, what are you going to do with your van? Most people use vans for moving stuff around and stuff like that. If you had a big load in the back, it'd probably drop the range even more because obviously it needs more power to get going. What are you going to do with a van with your range like that? This is just ludicrous. You can't use this technology. It's crap. Stop bringing out crap cars so people buy these crap cars. Stop it. Make something good that has a decent range, that can be charged quickly. Do it that way round. Like a Tesla. They have a decent range. Granted, you take forever to charge up unless you're using a Tesla quick charge point, but they have a decent range. Do that if you're doing electric cars. Otherwise, don't bother. And the Nissan Leaf, that freaking one pedal thing, is the strangest, weirdest contraption. You accelerate like you normally would with your right foot, and then as soon as you come off, it brakes. If you want to brake real, and you're supposed to come off gradual, and then it like applies the brakes gradually. But if you come off quick, you apply them like really, really quick, or you can actually apply the brake. But it just seems bizarre. Why are we changing the way we're driving at this point? Brake and accelerator with one foot is fine. Absolutely fine. You've still got to use the same foot for this e-pedal. I'm using my feet as an example, but you can't see them, I don't think. But I don't get why you would ever do it. It doesn't make sense. Take it away. Stop doing it, Nissan. It's silly. It's just, why did you crash? Oh, because when I left off accelerator, it didn't brake hard enough. just no. People are so used to just applying the brakes. Just leave it like that. This is my rant over. Electric cars wind me up, and some of you are going to say that, you know, my information is not valid or stuff like that. I have had electric cars in my previous employment, and I've had to do research in terms of how to get electric charging points installed at the offices and that I worked at, and it was very expensive. Granted, we was looking at rapid chargers, which are the really fast ones, which are expensive. They are expensive. The ones we were looking at were about 15 grand a piece, but we didn't have enough power supply at the office to supply them, so we needed to have a little mini substation put in at the bottom of the yard, and obviously all the wires run to it, and then the wires run back to the chargers. The chargers themselves come in at about 35-40 grand that we was looking at because of the ones we wanted, but it was going to cost us about 100 grand to get this little mini substation and the wiring put in for the officers. But yeah, we didn't do it. It was just far too much money. But I wasted a lot of time looking into electric cars and that sort of thing. So don't buy electric. Change the government's mind and get them to invest in hydrogen. That is what I'm saying. Hope you've enjoyed my rant. I'm very cold now, so I'm going to go back in the house because it's currently 1 degree in my garage. And I'm very cold. I'll see you very soon in another Rant Street. If you have any ideas, make sure you leave a comment below and I'll see if I can rant about it. I've also got 4 other YouTube channels. Links are in the description if you're interested in any of them. Take care. Bye bye.